What happens when you've achieved everything and still feel empty? That was me. I had the degrees, I had the businesses, I had the success, but something was missing. That's when I met Coach Keren Eldad. She's an elite executive coach. Her clients include Olympic athletes to Fortune 500 leaders. She's also the best-selling author of GILDED, Breaking Free from the Cage of Ambition. When I met Keren, she helped me change my life. She helped me reframe it, not by looking backwards, but by looking forward. Welcome to the Alpha Renaissance with Coach Keren Eldad.
It is such a pleasure to be here, and I can't tell you how proud I'm beaming like a grandma here.
Oh, I feel
just watching you thrive and just do what you were born to do, man.
No, that's a lot of help to you for sure, for being a key motivating factor in that journey for me.
It's a pleasure to be here. Let's help people.
Yeah, absolutely. How would you describe yourself?
I'm a friendly cat person who is a very happily married woman and also happens to be an executive coach, author, and speaker.
Yes. And what led you? What led you to that professionally or personally?
For most people in the coaching industry, and I'm no exception, it's really the dismantling of a former life and basically through the enormous trauma, a reconstruction of identity. So basically that's what brings a lot of us to the self-help, right? It's trauma.
Absolutely.
Divorce, debt, death, enormous life changes, career pivots, and so on and so forth. I was no exception to this. In my mid-30s, basically, I was one of those people who had been high achieving all of their lives and checked every single box. In other words, I got married, I had exceptional grades, went to exceptional schools, I was very thin. I hadn't eaten since the 90s. Like basically everything you're supposed to do to fit into a society, I did very well. But then I started to find that all of these things that I've created in my life, the C-suite position, the marriage, the house, etc., they didn't reflect who I truly was. Yeah. And I was feeling a real dissonance inside and started to essentially collapse from within. First, I was depressed, and then I started to physically destroy the marriage, the career, etc. I mean, literally like quit the career, quit the marriage, etc., and started to dive into personal development. And through this, I didn't understand that this was what was happening, but I start reading book after book after book and going to Tony Robbins seminar after Tony Robbins seminar like a junkie. And that was the beginning of the creation of Coach Keren. Years later, I started to assemble my own program and sort of basically just to my friends on LinkedIn said, would you like to go through a program with me so I can teach you everything I've learned that's changed my life? And a business was literally born. I've been doing that for 8 years ever since.
Wow. Yeah. It sounds, well, that first off, that was quite a bit of information and quite a bit of roller coasters. I'm sure that path led you to.
Yeah.
In terms of having that courage to identify that, hey, something is not right about my life, right? I need to change something. Where were you when you felt that? Or you had that epiphany?
I was in the shower. Please try not to picture it, even though that's going to be very hard.
Whoa.
I was crying in the shower. I was sobbing. I was listening to ABBA's My Love, My Life. And for anyone who is interested in the music of ABBA, it's the only sad song they've ever written.
Yeah.
I remember that moment like it was yesterday because it was the first and only time I've ever been suicidal. I thought I was not only miserable, but I didn't see a way out of it. And I really remember thinking, maybe it'll just be easier for me to check out. And by the grace of God or something, I sort of completed the thought and went, all right, what needs to die is not me. What needs to die is this life. Mm-hmm. This is ridiculous. This is a sham. You have the power. It's going to suck, but you are going to go through it. And then I went through a couple of years that legit sucked. And they were very difficult years of dismantling. Anyone who's ever been through a divorce, anyone who's ever been through financial loss, anybody who's ever been through, in my case, a fire and then the loss of their pets, knows that these are not easy things to go through. But when I willingly went through them, it made me understand that there was going to be an upside. And years later, there was.
There was. Where were you and where was purpose in your life?
Purpose was nowhere near me. I wasn't aware of the concept and I wasn't aware of it as an option. What I did understand was obligation, duty, and the right thing. These are anathema to purpose. I was raised, like many other well-socialized people, to do the correct thing, the right thing. My parents are immigrants, and as a child of immigrants, you understand you really only have 3 options. One of them is accountant, the other is doctor, and the other is lawyer. Now, my mom always threw in a fourth, which was marry rich.
Okay, well, that's a good one.
I got 4 options, but those were my options.
Yeah.
So high education and make sure that you kill it. Make sure that you get one of the safe professions. Now, I already start rebelling when in 2007, I watched a movie that changed my life, The Devil Wears Prada.
Yes.
And that's when I'm like, or fashion, which was also a career, and a career that could provide 6 figures and could make me relatively safe and comfortable. Also a prestigious title, right? So this is what I start to pursue. But then my entire life becomes sort of a hall of mirrors of chasing status, chasing appearances, doing the right thing that also looked like the right thing, looked good. And this is when I end up with a life that is nowhere near purpose. It's a life that looks really good on Instagram, but is not feeling good on the inside. Purpose is the opposite. Purpose doesn't really care what it looks like, but feels really good on the inside.
Yeah, and it's a lot of things that you mentioned, right? These are traditional monikers for what it means to be a man, right?
Exactly.
Like, I have this title. I work hard. I have to be this provider. I have to do X, 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 Y, right? And then many times they get to this point where they don't even know what their purpose is because they've achieved the things that they were supposed to do on paper. But then in their actual life, there's no fulfillment.
Yes, exactly. Or even worse, they have done quote unquote the right things and it hasn't worked out. It is not panning into providing. It is not panning into protection. And then you start getting really angry at the system. And I see this as a double-edged sword for masculinity. Now, I'm about to say something sacrilegious. As you know, I adore Professor Scott Galloway and I love the Mooch. Shout out to Anthony Scaramucci, who talk a lot about masculinity.
Yes.
But continue to reinforce. They're very good podcasts. They're very good podcasters. They're very good teachers. And I think they're nice humans. But in general, when you reduce people to a stereotype, men must provide, must protect, then you're basically eroding purpose as the stabilizing factor in our lives. My argument is no matter what gender you are, or feel like being today, if you're a young person, then the point is to find your purpose and to illuminate your life through waking up eager for the day by doing that which you are inimitable at and that which was truly your desire, born of you and ready to be gifted to the world, rather than making this about a role that you have to play in a certain way with a certain outcome. That's not going to be useful to people who are already frustrated and who are already freaked out of their minds in a world where all the rules are changing through AI. And I'd like to make a prediction and say within 3 years, we'll completely dismantle the world order.
Oh, I mean, I can't wait to get to that. You know, I think for a lot of young people and people in general, right? Okay, so they believe that they're supposed to be, maybe they believe, most people think that they believe, I would say, that they're living toward their purpose. But the but, right, is I need to have X role in order to fully live into my purpose.
Which means
that they have to suffer up front.
Yeah.
And they rationalize it. And
also that means that they're nowhere near purpose. Just to be clear for everybody, if you're suffering and you're associating purpose with title, you're already nowhere near purpose. Hugs, Keren.
Yes. I mean, well, people will say, well, I went through this. I have a rough childhood. You know, I didn't have enough money. And so I have to, you know, get myself to a position where I'm sustainable. I'm self-supporting. I'm independent before I can even live for my purpose, which many people have. Many people thought that.
They are correct.
So what do they do to then get to that point where they're truly living their purpose?
Tak, you and I are dear friends now. Like, you know me. If I'm hungry, I'm unbearable. So you know this firsthand. So does my husband. If I'm hungry, I'm unbearable. That means that I have to eat first, everything else after. I cannot coach if I'm hungry.
Yes.
I cannot coach if I'm sleepy. And it's exactly the same with purpose. You have basically 2 layers of coaching ascension in the self-development journey. And everybody has the same one, whether you are male or female. The first is autonomy. Autonomy is the first thing to reach. The first purpose is truly freedom. The second purpose is zone of genius, true purpose. That means that the first thing you need to tackle in coaching is self-sufficiency, truly understanding that your job is to make sure that you can become a true grown-up. And a true grown-up is someone who can be relied on. That is what a real grown-up is. You are a father, you know this.
Yes.
I can be relied on, I can be depended on. That is very, very different from anything else. That's the first thing we achieve. Now, for this level of coaching, what's really important is motivational coaching. Tony Robbins coaching. We are productivity-oriented, we are goals-oriented, and we start to align our goals more and more with what we enjoy more and more. A little bit more. But we're basically curing the hunger here.
Yeah.
We're basically getting out of hunger and into a place where we're frisky again. Once you're frisky, then, exactly. Yeah. When you can breathe, that's when you can go to purpose. That's when you're really like in a zone where you're uninhibited. Let me give you an example.
Yes.
As you know, the love of my life is another man, Yuval Noah Harari.
Oh, great.
The author of Sapiens, author of 21 Lessons for the 21st Century, author of Nexus. He's magnificent.
It's changed my life. I mean, Sapiens was a great lens to renew my view of the world.
Yes. And I want to make you a promise. One day I will marry him when he realizes he's not actually gay and truly loves me.
You would have to get him out of one of his silence retreats.
I mean,
maybe, he'll have to hear you.
Maybe he'll bump into me. Exactly. He'll be like, who's that woman who doesn't stop talking at the silence retreat? So Yuval Noah Harari is a very interesting case study in purpose.
Yes.
Because until he achieves tenure at the university as a professor, he does not write the books that will now land him. I think he's $300,000 a talk. He's one of the highest paid speakers in the world.
Wow.
And that's just speaking. That's not even his books. So it's really important to understand that for many of us, that evolution really does need to happen. It's not that you won't and you shouldn't start to understand what you truly prefer, what you would do if nobody paid you, and what puts you in flow, which are the 3 hallmarks of what your true purpose is in the early stages. It's just that I personally recommend eat first, everything else after.
Totally. I mean, it's definitely levels, right? You have to get yourself to that purpose, but then you really, ideally, you want to tap into that zone of genius. Yeah. So how do you get there, right? So say you're at that point where you're stable, you're reliable, nothing really quite relies on you, or maybe it's about to, or maybe it does just a little bit, right? How do you get yourself into living for your zone of genius?
Yes. Well, your wife is going to like this. The way to get into this is to hit the gas on yourself. Once you start to feel a little frisky, your job is to do the opposite of the impulses of the brain. The impulses of the brain, until we are self-sufficient, are defensive.
Yes.
The brain's job, I'm sorry to tell anyone who doesn't know this, is not to make us happy and rich. It's to keep us alive.
Yes.
So once we are alive and we have enough reserves to make the presumption that we will still be alive for quite some time, our job is to do the opposite of the impulses of the brain. The impulse of the brain, defense, protect what is, stay here. Your job is to do the opposite. Hit the gas, double down on yourself, invest, go all in. This is the point at which I usually tell my clients, more coaching. Not because I'm trying to sell them more coaching, but literally go for anything that will advance your skill set. Go for starting the podcast. Go for full launch into the next project. Go for more. That's where you'll start to really indulge yourself in the testing of the zone of genius. And zone of genius is not something that falls on us. It's literally when we start getting a whiff of something that we genuinely love to do, our job is to test it fully to realize whether we truly do love it. So for example, when I put together that program, that coaching program, and sold it to people, that all I was doing was trying to figure out with real data, can I sell this and do I like this? And that was what my first year was all about. Was, do I actually enjoy doing this work? And is it working?
Yeah.
Do people like it? And once you have that data, you're like, all right, I think we might be in the midst of some zone of genius.
Well, okay, so going against those heuristics that your brain creates, right? It's hard. It's difficult. And I know this because I had hit that point where I was struggling. Of course, on the outside, everything was okay. I was looking like, I had successful anesthesia practices. I literally did whatever I wanted. I didn't have anything stopping me. But inside, I had no motivation. I mean, I basically became an extreme sports junkie because I didn't have any stimulation in my brain. Mm-hmm. Simultaneously, I didn't feel like I had that killer drive that I relied so heavily on, which was based off of a lot of emotions: revenge, getting back, taking what's mine, beating everyone, proving everyone wrong, and just utterly just
Yes.
elbowing and defeating whoever said anything about me being successful. So when I actually accomplished that success that I had envisioned in my brain, no one was in the house.
Yeah.
Like, no, I didn't feel miraculously better. I didn't feel how I thought I would, right? But it took, a lot of deep work to get there, which was very uncomfortable.
Yes,
Is that often what you find
Yes.
for guys?
You know why? It's because of what you described. Thank you so much for sharing this so vulnerably. I hope lots of men hear this. That there are two things that you communicated that they should be aware of. The first is anger. And anger is a wonderful gateway drug. It's not useful for violence, but it is a wonderful gateway drug, a motivator, because it gets you out of a feeling of powerlessness and lack of motivation as a really determining factor that you are, in fact, not in the vicinity of purpose. These are awakening tools rather than destruction tools. And what you used them for was to do the opposite. You understood this is the signal, this is done. It's time to do something different. And that takes enormous courage to do. Thank you also for dropping the word heuristics. Heuristics means mental shortcuts, which is how our brain thinks. We think that our brain thinks slowly and rationally,
Yes.
and that we are incredibly sanguine creatures. We are not. We are freak shows who are constantly operating from instinct. What we have to start to do is really understand intuition and instinct are not the same thing.
Totally.
Instinct is like an animal seeing a predator and running. Intuition is, I wonder if there's something there. So what you really want to do in a moment like Tak described is lean in and ask yourself, all right, is it possible I should be hearing the message, this thing I've been doing is gum that I've chewed all the flavor out of. Anesthesia is over.
Yeah.
Is this a sign that something else is awakening? What is awakening? Let's talk about marriage for a sec.
Yeah, love marriage, by the way.
Who doesn't? It's the best.
It's the best.
Oh my God, if you don't love marriage, you're about to understand why.
First off, I can't get with this crowd that is just so anti-marriage, and everyone is just, they're so self-absorbed into, like life is better. I don't want anyone telling me anything to do. I do what I want. I'm so free. I feel so good when I wake up alone every weekend. Yeah. And I have the choice. I have the choice to be with how many I want, especially for a lot of guys, right? It's like, I can do what.
Do you really think, you've met my husband, have I ever said anything to him about what to do? I couldn't tame that man if I tried. And by the way, I'm even worse.
Yeah.
There's no telling anyone what to do. This isn't how marriage works. What I want to say is, if you do wake up in the middle of a marriage and you feel unmotivated, you feel disheartened, you feel like even the anger, the trying to prove somebody wrong is gone. You are in the wrong marriage.
Yes.
It's exactly that. That's the sign that we should take from this, is not that you're not in the vicinity of purpose, is that purpose is looking for you elsewhere. And it's your job to turn in the direction of it, to do the opposite of what the brain wants, which is to move into defiance and standing in place and stagnating and dying a slow death.
Totally.
And to move.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. Marriage gives you this opportunity. And even before marriage, right? You learn very early that it shouldn't be difficult. It should be whatever the characteristics of your partner, whatever they have going on, it shouldn't push you away from who you are as a person. And it shouldn't move your purpose.
Yes.
You should it should enrich it. It should actually bring you guys together. It doesn't mean we have to all watch the same comic books or, the same TV shows. Because let me tell you, me and my wife don't. We have very different tastes in a number of things. Yeah. But what she does for me and what I do for her, it all just helps strengthen my resolve on what I think my individual purpose is.
Yeah. You're making me laugh because Ryan likes The Wire and Game of Thrones.
It's the best. The Wire is the best.
I don't want those horrible shows in my house. It just comes to show you. And I'm like, Keren's like still living in 90s sitcoms. You're right. You're absolutely right. Yeah. But the main point that everybody should hear, and this is how it relates to purpose, is life should be easy and fun.
It should be.
It should be. And it is a mistake to think otherwise. And it's only when you start asking yourself, how can I let this be easy? How can I let my life be wonderful? That you find the right partner and that you find the right. If you want to make it about this career for yourself?
Yeah, yeah. I'm very extremely pro marriage in a way that I think traditionally I grew up,
Yeah.
where, my mom and dad were together for almost 40 years, right? We lived in a house where marriage was just very normal. So I had that working for me. But then you kind of get out into the real world,
Yeah.
right? And then there are dating apps. And then there are then there's statistics. Oh my God. Then there's social media that are telling you, hey, actually, most people get divorced. It's not working out. Anytime you look at happily married people, they feel so fulfilled. They live longer. They eat better.
Yeah.
They have more enriching lives.
It's true. The numbers don't lie. It adds a lot of life to our years. I also want to say, with due respect to the statistics, I've never been in the bottom percentile of anything.
Yeah.
So I think the numbers don't apply to me.
Yeah.
It's kind of like when I remember Tony Robbins saying to me in our first seminar, as an executive coach, you can expect to earn $90,000 a year. And I went, how much do you make, Tony? In other words,
yeah,
I don't think so.
No.
And so you don't make that relevant to your life. And when you don't make it relevant to your life, it isn't.
Yeah, I think if you choose to play by those rules, then you're going to play that game and you're going to be in it and you're going to hate your life and you're going to be anti-marriage and, feel lonely. I always say that no one is really made to be by themselves.
No. And in fact, especially for men, I'm Jewish. We believe that for men's purpose in the world to be expressed, you must come together with your soulmate and must be married. A man who is not will never become fully self-aware and therefore fully self-actualizing. This is a need in this lifetime. I believe it makes you more masculine. I believe it makes you more whole as a man.
Oh, 100%. For me, definitely my center of focus was just so much stronger.
Yeah.
Where I wasn't spending money. Actually, I became a lot more wealthy because I wasn't spending money on dating.
Yeah.
Also, my attention, my capacity to focus night and day. I mean, I'm so happy, like when you walk around town, you go to the gym, you go out, you're just not distracted by anything.
I completely agree.
I
it's
just
freedom
don't care.
from all of that. By the way, it's the same thing about wealth, by the way. I always tell people wealth is not the power to do stuff. It's the freedom from the stress of not having the stuff. And one of the things that I really love about marriage for men is I think it gives you a sense of purpose that is above and beyond your career because you're devoting your life to something that's much bigger than you.
My career in anesthesia as an anesthetist felt I had given my life to it.
Yeah.
Okay? I spent 15 years school, 12 years school, training, moving around. I mean, completely dedicated most of my adult life to it. And then when I found the love of my life, it became this big.
Yeah.
Like my career became this big. Still a great career.
Yeah.
Booming career is done. I am very grateful and thankful for it. I love what I do. But in comparison to my personal relationships with my wife, my child, it's minuscule.
Yeah. I tell people all the time, my parents always said that a good marriage is not 1 + 1 = 2. It's 1 + 1 = 11. And it's also just allowed me to do so much more with my life. It's not just that Ryan is the world. It's that he's allowed me to have wings.
Absolutely. Well, you're a coach, right? And oftentimes, when people want to seek help is a large umbrella, right? Oftentimes people, they think about therapy, psychoanalytical therapy, Freudian style even.
Sure.
Right? And then
okay, it's 100 years too late for that, but sure. Sorry, I didn't mean to scoff at all the Freudians out there.
And then you have coaching. And for me, the barrier to just actually asking for help, was very high in my life, right? Therapy, I definitely didn't want because I felt therapy was too backwards looking, right? I didn't want to spend hours with a therapist for them to tell me that all of my problems started at childhood. I know.
You're like, we're all aware.
Where have you met my dad and mom? And they love us. My parents, amazing, love them to death, great. But I just didn't want to spend so much time in the past.
Yeah.
I wanted to spend time in the future. What's the difference between therapy, self-help therapy, motivational therapy, purposeful therapy, and coaching,
Yes.
purposeful coaching?
I want to first qualify and say that the candidate for coaching and the candidate for therapy are different people. Now, let me explain what the differences are. There are 3 key differences between therapy, Jungian, Freudian, CBT, you name it, and coaching, real coaching as defined by the International Coaching Federation. And then we'll talk about the 2 archetypes that work better for coaching, better for therapy.
Perfect.
The 3 key differences are, number 1, coaching never looks backward. This does not mean we do not look at all the trauma and limiting beliefs that you have inherited and dragged with you, unfortunately, to your 40-year-old self. There's tons of garbage in there. We do want to look at it. What we don't want to do is explain exactly what happened at age 7, et cetera, and spend a lot of time pathologizing that and staying there, because that is not the aim of coaching. Coaching is forward-looking, not backwards-looking. And what we work with is what is. What is right now is not the trauma. That's done, I'm sorry to say. But what has remained are the beliefs and the experiences that you're still carrying. That's the part we do want to look at. Number 2, the second key difference is coaching involves a lot of hard work. Therapy is we sit together, we have an anti-didactic session, meaning open-ended questions like, so how did that make you feel? And how are you? Coaching is not like that. Coaching is a didactic process that includes videos, as you know, audios, worksheets, exercises, journaling prompts, etc. We're trying to not just instill wisdom, but get you to go and exercise that wisdom. As you know, no one is wiser than me, but you can't learn by osmosis. You got to go do. So the doing is the second very big difference. The third big difference of coaching, and I think this is the one that makes us particularly attractive to a certain type of client, is while therapy can go on forever and ever, and nobody needs to get better, coaching is for a season.
Yeah.
We are here to take you to the foot of the mountain and then go, bye, I hope you come visit, and that's it. Coaching will re-enter your life at different points in which you really need a reset, a tweak, a refresh, a new experience, a skill up level, but not a constant. The last thing we want to do is create a dependency on the coach. It's the opposite. Your job, it's kind of like in mentoring, your job is to surpass me, is to become a true master in your own right. That's the job of coaching, to really allow you to become the master of your own life. And so coaching, therefore, appeals to a different kind of person. Those of us who want results, we like coaching. Those of us who like faster paced operations, we like coaching. And those of us who truly, I think, understand things heavily on an intellectual level and want to not bypass the emotions, but find a way to catalyze them in real time more quickly, we are going to be much more interested in coaching naturally than in therapy.
Yeah, I think for me, growing up as a South Side of Chicago kid in the 90s, it was a very different era, to say the least. And I often found role models by reading, looking back. The looking back for me was, I loved Marcus Aurelius,
Yes.
right? I loved Julius Caesar. I loved so many different people in history, that Einstein, so many people that for me, they were role models in a way. And I looked for them for encouragement because I could read about their lives and I could see like, oh my God, like Oppenheimer tried to kill his, his professors. Like,
like Oppenheimer is a fascinating
one, right? Yeah. So many very, very, Nelson Mandela, so many people, very, very, very fascinating, right? And you are able to read about their lives. Simultaneously, that kid grew up, right? And as a 30, 40-year-old man, the idea of going backwards to look into my own life was disgusting, to be honest. Like, I didn't want to labor over what happened to me that day at dinner when, whatever I saw, whatever. I just didn't want that. Whereas I found coaching to be in that same way of, I was able to look back and get the essence and get the lessons of what happened. Like I did when I was a child, when I looked at the lessons and the essence of others' lives, I was able to do that and then use that as a tool to move forward. That was very liberating because I didn't feel as though I was helpless.
That's right. I don't want to relive it. I don't want to be back in that position, but I do want to understand what happened. And what happened was shame, grief. In other words, you're starting to process emotion. And then what coaching gives you in real time is the ability to process emotion and then dive into those thoughts from that perspective, which is very transformative.
The didactic portion too is like, I mean, full disclosure, you were my coach and many of these things. And I enjoy actually sitting down and going through the work and actualizing, you know, pen, paper, whatever the exercises were, because it really forced me.
Yeah.
Like, you know, I would have done it for my finances, right? If I needed to like see what was going in and out, you know, do a little P&L, figure out, you know, what my budget is. But I didn't think of doing that for my actual life and understanding my purpose, right? And yet I completely found that just eye-opening, because, you know, it didn't make me feel like a victim.
Yeah. It gives you so much power. Yeah.
Yeah. It just didn't make me feel like a victim. It just made me feel empowered that like I wasn't just coming to talk about all my problems of the past. Forward thinking.
Yeah. Well, one of the things I've enjoyed a lot about coaches, and you know, I work with coaches, I talk to coaches all the time on my podcast, is I've looked a lot for integrity, which is something that's a little harder to see. Therapists have distance. They have to have distance, in other words, in order to avoid projection or in order to avoid that phenomenon where you fall in love with the therapist and so on and so forth. It's transference. In the coaching world, it's not like that. We want you to see us and we want you to understand us. And it's really important because coaching is leading by example. The teachers, particularly business coaches, for example, are people who are running 7-8-figure businesses. They do know what they're talking about, ideally. Executive coaches are people who have, like me, been in organizations for 20 years. We do understand what actually being in the C-suite is like. And marriage coaches ideally are married and know what they're talking about. This is really important. Exactly. Relationship coaches. Like I'm always very wary of those who don't have that congruence. That's another very big defining factor in coaching, because we're not just teaching you practical things that work theoretically. We are aware of many different things that will work in real life. And that's something that's very, very different, extremely hard to fake.
Well, that begs the question, right? How does one identify a good coach? Because the barrier to entry for coaching is low, right? You know, I know people that were working dogs and 1 year and the next day they're coaching something completely unrelated with, as far as I know, not much training on what they're coaching.
It's cray. And in the world of AI, it is becoming far worse. Their social media game looks legit. Their books look legit. Their podcast looks legit. So here's what you're looking for. Number 1, you're looking for authentic experience. Your job, just like in hiring, is to look for absolute integrity, to look for real follow-through, to look for a good, long swath of time of people who truly walk the walk and for whom others are willing to attest they walk the walk. You just ask, are you willing to work with them again? And what was that experience like? You just verify the credentials. Number 2, once you have the credentials, I am who I say I am, I have the knowledge I say I possess, look at their lives. The results don't lie. If you have a speaker who is a phenomenal speaker, an amazing author, and they've never been married and they're 50, I got to be honest with you. I'm thinking, I wonder what's going on there. And that's a legitimate question for which they may have a great answer, but they should have a great answer. They should have a knowledgeable answer for that. If they don't, if they're just resisting and like attacking you for asking the question, you've got an issue. The same thing goes for business and for executive. Whatever their discipline is, they better have real life results that they're plainly visible to show that they are who they say they are. Otherwise, AI can fake it real good right now.
Yeah, I mean, that's something that became very real to me, especially as I've become older, is looking at the lives of the people that are put on a pedestal.
Yeah.
And what does their life say about them?
That's right.
Right.
And by the way, I just want to make it very clear. It doesn't mean that your life is perfect. You know me totally. Very up close. Yeah. I am angry sometimes. I am very interested in politics. And I have had moments where I've completely guffawed and made the wrong joke at dinner. But that does not mean that my life is a sham. It's really important. My business is exactly what I say it
Yeah.
is. My husband is exactly who I say he is. I am exactly who I say I am. That's what authenticity really means. It
Yeah.
doesn't mean perfect.
You're not, and that's a sign that you're not actually a chatbot.
That's right.
Like, you make mistakes.
Yeah.
And that's normal. Yeah, no, that's something that I really appreciate is seeing the integrity from those that I work with. Like, if I hear someone on a podcast or in the social somewhere screaming about, okay, you need to make your life better, you need to have better relationships, you need to have a strong community, and then you look at their life and it's none of that.
Yeah.
I don't know how you can teach that if you don't come from that.
I know. This is how I feel as well.
Yeah.
But all we can do is master our own domain and truly become integrous as we are. And no one is perfect, but Mother Teresa once said, if you really want to change the world, begin with your own family.
Yes.
That's pretty much it.
Yes. Yeah. One of your conceptualizations that I love the most is you don't know what you don't know. I say it all the time. It was something very helpful for me in the sense of not always assuming that I know every variable that has happened in a given situation. For example, many people walk around in life, and I was one of them, where if something happened to me, I could easily assume, well, it was because I was tall, it was because I was short, it was because I was black, it was because I was this. When in actuality, you're just a minuscule part of that interaction, of that phenomena, right? Yeah. Whereas it could be something going on with this person that you have no idea is even happening, right? But then what's really worse about that is the internalization of the event that then traumatizes you. Love that framework of yours, by the way. It's been very helpful for me.
I'm really happy to hear this. This is critical for everyone to listen to right now. Number one, the understanding that you should be humble. In other words, everything you're assuming is incorrect. Everything, by the way, not some things. Everything you're assuming is incorrect. And that unless you really engage with it properly, you will not reach a reaction or a response that is conducive to anything other than chaos, is going to be not only transformative to relationships, but to this 3-year period ahead in which I believe everything is being rewritten. You don't know what you don't know is the stance that is the antidote first and foremost to they are against me, I have a problem, and this is a catastrophe waiting to happen. That's what you don't know what you don't know does for you. In any moment of challenge, the understanding that what you're projecting is false will allow you to calm down for long enough, in my case, 10 seconds, to ask a couple of basic questions. For example, if somebody says we need to talk, most of us, we're human beings, will be like, oh my God, what did I do? Right? All right. So in those few seconds, wait a second, I'm projecting that this is bad. Is that true? Are you sure? Do you know that this is going to be a problem? Even if you say, Keren, historically, people don't say we need to talk if they're going to give you a present. That doesn't mean that they don't actually want to say something good. I've been in several meetings talk where somebody said we need to talk, and then they said I would like you to executive coach my entire team. In other words, these things do turn out well. Or in Ryan's case, we need to talk almost always means can we go to dinner later this week with my friend Moose? In other words, that is not accurate. Now let's talk about the age of AI. When most people think about what's about to happen, let's just call a spade a spade. They're not thinking, yay, improvement. They're thinking catastrophe. They're thinking my job is going to go away. They're thinking this is a world in which I cannot be competitive. They're thinking there are enormous sinister forces that are coming against us. And this is, by the way, both sides of the aisle.
Totally.
And all over the world.
Yeah.
It's the same with I'm over 40. What are my prospects? Most people are like, they're all dead.
Yeah. Actually, 40 is like when you really start living.
Yes. So the question is, do you know that?
Yeah.
And if you don't know that, what could you assume that's different? What are a couple of additional possibilities? And the question to help you go from I know this to maybe I don't know this is very simple. It's the question, what else is possible? What else is possible is, hey, Keren's well over 40. She looks like she's fine. Or, AI might actually be like the internet. It might be an enormous blessing to our lives and an enormous improvement. Or maybe this is my final opportunity to actually level up my skills and see if I can reinvent myself and be competitive here. There are other options. You don't know what you don't know. That is the number one secret.
Yeah, I mean, especially in the age of AI,
Yeah.
where you have all of this. It's like a trauma mongering where everything you hear is, oh, AI is going to destroy everything. It's gonna replace you. It's going to become your god. You're going to be praying to AI. It's like all these things where it's an invention of human beings, right? That, like most tools, you can harness it for good. You can harness it for bad.
Yeah.
That's going to be up to you and your understanding of the technology at hand.
Now, I agree with you, Yuval Noah Harari. It's an exceptional new agent. It's a creation like we've never seen before. I'm just saying, I'm humble enough to say I don't know how this plays out.
Yeah, I don't know either. I mean, for me, I see it primarily as not replacing humans. It's adding to humans.
Yeah.
It's human plus,
Yeah.
right? It's giving us a greater ability to, hey, I have a personal assistant in my pocket, right? It can proofread, it can create things, and it does it very well. But like any, assistant, I have to check their work, right?
You have to check the work,
It's like, it's a personal assistant, but not always the brightest one. Like sometimes he makes a little mistake and you're like, okay, that's completely inaccurate. Let me fix that.
Yeah. I agree. I think, listen, this time calls for one thing. And so does masculinity and so does AI. And that's just openness.
Yeah.
Openness to what we are evolving into. And perhaps just a little dose of optimism that maybe it's actually going to be a good thing that we're evolving into. It sucks. It's really hard to walk through the fire. I can feel myself going, what the hell's going on? In so many realms. But I truly do hold the belief that this catalyzation, this motivation I'm feeling is good, not bad.
Well, part of that was the impetus behind this podcast is quite a few things, right? One is the conversion of artificial intelligence in my field, in health, right? Healthcare, medicine, what have you. How are these interacting to the point where they're shaping and changing human identity, right? And I, like many other people, I don't know the answer to that question, right? But I feel like this is the Iliad and I'm Odysseus.
Yeah.
I'm taking you on a journey, the journey into the world of technology that's changing our lives by the second. Because I know many of us feel lost in it. And I think too, that also adds to a lot of the aimlessness that many people are really being afflicted by right now. It's feeling just a little bit overwhelmed by technology.
Well, this comes back to the solution of coaching, or the solution that coaching provides. What most of us are looking for when we were talking about how to discern between good coaching and not good coaching is really what you need to apply is discernment. It's the same thing that goes for AI and for the shifting face of masculinity. Your job now is to become discerning. Your job now is to qualify information. Is it good? Is it not good? It's to apply a discerning eye to anything that Chat GPT gives you. And it's also to seek a community that is uplifting and is real and is the right thing for you. Every person listening to this podcast now has made a choice to have a very deep conversation in their lives, to tune in their attention, their precious attention, to something that will elevate their life. We can do this again and again and again. Your job is also to smell garbage and not give your attention to the garbage. And that takes a lot of discipline because garbage is very delicious.
Totally. It has sugar on it.
It's num-nums. So we have to make the decision, all right, but this is garbage, so I'm not going to give my attention to it. And when we choose our communities, when we choose our masterminds, our retreats, our company, our dinner parties, choose wisely.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, you also like to speak about Mo Gaudet's famous phrase about AI being the fourth industrial revolution.
Yes.
We've heard that before, right?
Yeah.
We've heard that, again, the monster AI is just going to come and like you're going to be sleeping. It's just going to reach in your pocket and take all of your money. It's going to take your beautiful wife. It's going to take your beautiful kids, and we're all going to be working for it. What do you think that means practically?
Well, I can only cite a much smarter thinker than I, Mr. Gaudat, who is an engineer. He wrote, by the way, a magnificent book called The algebra of happiness was Scott Galloway's, I think, appropriation of his talent. But it's about happiness. It's a really Solve for Happy. That's it.
Yes.
Solve for Happy is a magnificent book. It's the story of how he found happiness after the death of his son. And he is a deep thinker in the world of AI from the perspective of a person who's optimistic about AI. And what he's positing is that for 10, 15 years, we're about to go through hell. This will be, it's a wonky technology. It's a new technology. Be vigilant, be aware, do whatever you can to up-level your skill set and to get to the other level. But once that's done, this will become a true ally for us. He is not actually saying it'll destroy your money and your wife's going and everything's going to die. But he is saying there's an enormous adaptation coming. And those of us who are not adept with the technology, in other words, who are not rolling with it, who are not vigilant, who are not discerning, we will unfortunately be impacted in a very negative way. And that, he says, will affect 80-90% of humanity. So hypervigilance is not a bad thing right now. That doesn't mean anxiety and don't sleep. It just means become aware of the patterns, listen to the advisors, find and seek really quality guidance and quality information. Scott Galloway comes to mind, by the way. Mo Gaudat comes to mind in this field. And do whatever you can or whatever you need to do as diligently as possible to move your systems into a place that is a little bit more secure. In my case, it's really literally like looking at how I'm invested, where my money is, where my cash is, where my business is, where my mindset is. One of the only things they can't take away from me is mastery. I have a knowledge, I have a skill. The skill will probably survive for 10 years. Work on my skill, work on myself, work on my resilience. And work on my health. Those are the things that you will be able to continue to take with you and that they will optimize your chances of getting to the next side. That's it.
Yeah, I remember just like older aunts, right? Older uncles that never knew anything about computers. And I remember the iPhone.
Yeah.
And the iPhone had been out 10 years and they finally decided, okay, I'm going to get an iPhone. And the gap of uptake was so large. I mean, I've never seen anything like it. And it was just struggling with just pressing a button, sliding, like a hard press, like things that we just know intuitively. We don't even think about. And to watch someone operate an iPhone like an alien from Mars was just always mind blowing. And I would say, I don't understand how someone could become like that. And then the AI hit, right? And you see just, whoa, all of a sudden something leapfrogs.
Yeah.
So it's a couple of things with that. One, it's happened before.
Yeah,
right.
Exactly. Survive the initial shock. Get with it. It's happening. Yeah.
It's happening. Like it happened. Like where you have an invention on Earth, again, same Earth that everyone's been living on for the past few millions of years, right? And you have technology that comes. It changes everything. Like this has happened before. So the uptake of it at this point just needs to be purposeful.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
I'm thinking a lot about Ryan. You know, Ryan is a journalist, and journalism has certainly been, I think, one of the first industries that's been completely upended by artificial intelligence, writing, editing, and journalism, proper fact-checking. But that just means that the target has shifted. It doesn't mean that it's become obsolete. So he has to think on his feet more about who the target audience is, who to do the work for, who can still use his magnificent skill set, and where can he be most useful. Yes. And then you have companies, of course, like the Citibank and Meta who work with them, and rather than institutional. And also institutional media being something that's going the way of the dodo means crooked media and other big media conglomerates who are rising in the stead. It doesn't mean that journalism has disappeared. It just means it's changed shape.
Changed, yeah. Who said that it was just supposed to be ABC 7 News at 5 a.m. and then at noon and then at 7 a.m. and then it's a show at the end of the week? No, it's like no one said it had to be like that. That's just how.
And as a matter of fact, I want to give myself some snaps. 20 years ago, I wrote my thesis in university and I wrote about radical media. And even then, I remember this was controversial and my professors didn't agree with me. But I was like, there will be a time when radical media independent media is the only thing that we are really tuning into.
Yeah.
They're the ones who can run a proper operation now.
Yeah, I know. And it's and to the point where the barrier of entry is low, but also the skill set, you still have to pull it off.
That's exactly right. So that's why discernment is so good. Like, you can still, the coaching industry is enormous. It's a wild west.
Yeah.
But they're still really good. And people can still tell really good from AI generated 28-year-old.
Are there chatbots that are coaches?
Yes, I think so.
I'm sure
I've read in the New York Times about people using AI for therapy, and unfortunately about the cases where it's gone horribly wrong. For example, suicide counseling. You know, I was a suicide counselor for many years in the beginning of my practice. And
you worked the crisis hotline.
Yeah. We're trained for weeks before we even get to speak to a human being. We have codes and templates, and you are still a human being who can discern when a person is truly in need. A chatbot is not doing that.
Yes.
They are mimicking that. So it really actually makes me shudder, because these are free services. Why wouldn't you call a free human rather than a chatbot who might make your condition far more aggressive and give you very bad information? Literally just helping you to hear what you want to hear, which unfortunately many times is known in the industry as enabling.
Yeah. Yeah. And for anyone that is struggling with suicide, text or call 998 for help. You're not alone. And life these days may make you feel that you're alone, but you're not. Somebody can talk to you or talk you out of any of the issues that you may be facing.
That's right. And that's a real human, and they'll spend as long as you need.
Yeah. That's a powerful. Yeah. I had recently spoke to a suicide expert, a positive psychologist, Nick Pigeon, and how technology has correlated with the increase of suicide. It's just wow. She had 12 people in her extended friend group that committed suicide.
It's really a horrifying phenomenon. It's a young phenomenon.
It's a young phenomenon. Never in history, I don't believe it was a young phenomenon.
So let's help young people by giving them real love, real community, human interaction, and by above all things, really good coaching. You know, you're giving me a chance to talk about my mission. The reason I care so much about integrity and about ethics is because I know what this job is. This isn't, yay, let's help people become very rich. This is going through divorce with people, going through grief with people, sitting with people who've lost a child. This is a very unusual job. And it takes a person who really has the capacity to hold that, to be able to really honor it. And I think that's why integrity and dignity are everything. And you should do your due diligence, and you should really look for real.
Yeah. You have one of the best books that I've read this year.
Thank you.
Maybe in the history of books.
Oh, I love you so much. Wait till you read the second one. It's much better.
I can't wait.
I just finished it this weekend.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Guilt-free.
Guilt-free. Well, the first one is Gilded.
Gilded.
And I highly recommend everyone to read it. It was a good refresher of many of the topics that me and you have shared over the years of just conversation. So really happy to read the second book for sure. And you're also going to have to come on again. Okay. We're like running out of time.
I'd be delighted. And that time I want to talk all about the Stoics, because I was so heavily under the influence when I wrote the second one.
Oh, really?
I was drinking from the spigot.
What?
Robert Greene in particular,
I love
by the way.
Robert Greene. It's the best. What about the Stoics really motivated you in this writing?
Do you know what I love about the Stoics? The Stoics are no bullshit. There's an enormous over-coddling happening on one end of the coaching spectrum, and there's an enormous unapologetic almost like a get off your ass and figure it out on the other end of coaching. Stoicism is just practical. It sees life as it is. Yeah. It's clear-eyed. It's the good and the bad. It's neither here nor there. It's very, very practical. And I think that's why it survives. I think that's why it's so congruent with the academic study of positive psychology, and so congruent with philosophies that have stood thousands of years of tests of time, Buddhism, Kabbalah, etc. And in that sense, I just find it to be the thinking system that appeals to me the most.
Yeah. Yeah. And it came from an empire, an ancient empire. But when you think about Rome always, it's kind of like, oh, it's like ancient history. I look more at Rome. Rome is more like it's the oldest modern civilization.
Yes.
Right. So they were dealing with problems that we would probably find. I mean, our coliseums just are like, all of our football fields are shaped like coliseums.
They are
right?
coliseums.
Right. Like they're just coliseums. Right. So they were like very modern in their approach and in their problems. And of course, it's like Marcus Aurelius will come out and all the other Stoics will come out and have so much to say that it's still relevant. Kind of weird how that happened.
It's magnificent.
Yeah.
And it's really, that's what I mean. It stood the test of time. It's extraordinarily practical. It's funny because I was just watching an interview. You know, I'm obsessed with Jerry Seinfeld. And Seinfeld has discovered Marcus Aurelius now at 70. And he's like talking about it. And I'm like, wow, I would have guessed that he's been a Stoic all of his life because he's just such a practical person. What I love about Rome, and thank you for bringing it up, there's a miniseries that was on HBO 15 years ago called Rome.
Yeah.
It's the best show I've ever seen. Just saying. Everybody should go back and watch it. Tiny little miniseries.
Yeah.
It's just so practical.
Yeah.
When some guy, Paulo, a big soldier of the nation of Rome, the empire of Rome, kills somebody, and the other guy says, all right, now I have to kill you. His response is, fair enough.
Yeah.
And this is something that I truly appreciate. Cause and effect. You must learn to just understand how to play this game.
Yeah.
That's what Stoicism does.
Game. It's a big game, and it just is what it is.
Yeah. It just is what it is.
Yeah. Wow. Well, Coach Keren, thank you for coming on.
Thank you.
I really appreciate you taking the time to come and illuminate us with your perspective on things.
Thank
and
you.
like I said, we'll have to have you on again.
Thanks
for joining the Renaissance.
It's a joy to see you doing this and to stand in your light. And I wish you great success and even greater ease.
Thank you so much.